Howdy, welcome to another week of Canon Calls. This week, I had the pleasure to invite reoccurring guest Forrest Dickison on. We talked about the brand new Hello Ninja, Hello Georgie book that you can now get at canonpress.com. And remember, when you do order it from us, that comes signed from Nate and from Forrest. So it's essentially your one-stop shop for Christmas. You don't want to miss it. Last announcement is one thing we talked about on the show is that Forrest has been doing the illustrations for the Christian Heritage series, which you've probably heard us talk about on the show. I know we mentioned it last week with Glenn Sunshine's Vindicii. Well, this week we are publishing John Calvin's Institutes of the Christian Religion. It's got 4 introductions from 4 fantastic people who really appreciate Calvin. 4 different covers, 4 books, all 4 books of the Institutes of Christian Religion. We will be doing a giveaway, so stay tuned to any and all Canon social media where you can find out how to win those as a giveaway. So, without further ado, meet Forrest Dickison. All right, now welcoming on a recurring guest, one of our favorites, Hello Ninja illustrator, Christian Heritage series cover illustrator, Forrest Dickison. Welcome to the program again. Thank you for your time.
Hey, Jake. So good to be here.
You've
got 30 minutes.
We've got a half hour. And I thought we would bypass the easy topics for us, such as election possible fraudulence, possible.
I mean, I know everybody is itching to hear what I have to say.
Those itching ears, but I want to give everybody just a brief sense of joy that the world isn't like this, the world doesn't have to. There's still Hello Ninja in the world.
That's right.
Right? So the latest book, Hello Ninja, Hello Georgie, has been released.
It's out.
You're on the 3rd season of Hello Ninja on Netflix.
Yep.
So congratulations on all that. Can you tell us about the new book?
I sure can, Jake.
Hello, Georgie.
Well, Georgie is the neighbor girl. This is kind of a origin story. Yeah, It's an origin story for Georgie. Yeah, Georgie was a character.
We met on the show.
We met on the show. She's in episode 1 in the show because she was a character created for the show.
Got it.
So we decided book 2, Hello Ninja, Hello Georgie, would be a good idea to introduce her. How did these 2 friends meet? And there you go.
It is a 32 pages. And it's not a board book, but it's essentially still in the flavor genre of board books, although you've done the paintings. They're very good. It's a hardcover. What do you call those? Like if I were like, oh, that's the board book, you'd say, no, Jake,
No, Jake, you dummy. That's a picture book.
That's a picture book. So maybe it's just
Caleb
a picture
could edit
book.
that one out.
That's just a picture book.
Yeah,
I bet Caleb leaves it. I bet he doesn't take that out.
It's okay.
Okay, so picture book, and are you enjoying that more or less, or does it make any difference to you in terms of being an illustrator?
It's fun to have. I mean, picture book means bigger size, so you can, your paintings can really sing.
Pop.
With a board book, it's, I don't know, the book now is like 8.5 inches. Board book was like 5 by 5 inches.
Right.
And my paintings just could not be held back by that aspect ratio, hence the larger size. So, well, sort of. That might as well be the reason.
Of course.
Yeah, so book's great. It's fun. It's Wesley, the main character, is not so sure about this new neighbor girl, but by the end, he's pretty sure. And they're best friends.
And this is out and about, obviously anywhere books are sold, but are there any advantages to getting them at Canon? Yes.
Yes, that's the answer you're looking for.
Yes.
I have no idea. Jake, tell me, what are the advantages?
So anytime you buy Hello Ninja,
I will sign one.
Yeah, from canonpress.com.
Nate will sign one.
Nate and Forrest will both sign it.
And I will scribble, let me rephrase that. I will draw very carefully a ninja
scribbling
in your book. No scribbling. I'm a professional.
Right. Okay. So there you have it. So the brand new book, you can get that. I think it's got to be the go-to gift of any new moms, any new parents. That's the book.
Grandparents.
Aunts,
uncles, cousins.
Are you allowed to talk about, is there going to be another season on Netflix?
Yeah,
Has that been greenlit?
There's one more in the hopper. I don't know exactly when it's coming out, but I know it's coming out soon.
In previous episodes, I think they were you going through the process of doing a ton. Like I remember back in the day when you were in the creative suite, Fridays, there always went up a sheet of paper with a ninja sign on it or a phone call, like a bad drawing of a guy on the phone.
That was a great drawing. What are you talking about? I don't make bad drawings.
Do you still do those? Do you still do those meetings?
No. That gig ended sometime in the last 2 years.
So a long time
I have no
ago.
idea. Yeah, the last 2 years have been a bit of a blur.
Okay.
For myself.
So during that time, though, when you say that gig, what were you doing?
My official role was design consultant. And so I would review designs coming out of Vancouver, Canada.
Okay. For the show.
Once a week for the show. Character designs, props, backgrounds, color palettes, you name it. Because everything has to be created for the show. Like,
how different is what you guys were doing? So when I say you guys, obviously you said they're doing most of the work, you're consulting.
Yes.
But how different is it from like what Walt Disney did?
It's exactly the same.
The exact same? There's nothing?
Only better.
Only better.
No, I mean, it's the same general idea.
Yeah.
You have the script, and then you go from there to boards where you're visualizing the script. And then in the meantime, you're designing characters, props. If there's a jungle episode, you got to build a bunch of
jungle props,
such as trees, leaves. Well, mostly trees and leaves. We spent a lot of time on trees and leaves and vines, things like that. Yeah. So then once you design it, then you hand it over to the modelers who will build 3-dimensional sculptures of these designs on the computer. Then you'll hand that to the riggers who will build like armatures for these things. And then you hand them to the animators who will breathe life into your little digital sculpt.
And which part of that process were you most involved in?
Mostly design. So it was great because at any point of the process, I could jump in and swing my elbows around if I wanted, but most of the time it was design. So I ended up doing some character design, a background painting.
Okay.
Which, so it was mostly.
And by that, you just
design.
mean like the setting, like it could have been mountains or.
It was mountains.
Okay.
You got it.
Right. Okay.
I painted some mountains.
Yeah.
Which was fun.
Which part of that process did Walt wish he had? Is it the modeling, obviously?
Are we talking about like the Disney company or Walt
Disney
himself?
Well, both. Well,
it's all. The process is the same.
That Walt was involved with, like his time. Like I'm asking, like in terms of has there been any movement? Well, is he? Has there? What advances?
Don't get me started yet.
What advances have been made in animation
since hand drawn?
Since the hand drawn like world, like how different is it?
Lots.
Yeah. So I assume is it for the better or all for the not?
Yeah, it's all for the better.
Okay. That's what I was looking for. I just didn't know, would the 9 old men wish they had had the computer modeling, or do you think, are they?
I don't know. I mean, they were kind of inventing the medium as they went.
Yeah.
And what they came up with still it's kind of their techniques are still like the Bible of animation. You go back and the fundamentals that they came up with just with pencils and paper are still the same fundamentals that we use today. It's just that the medium, the polish is different. But all, it's just a fancier.
The polish is different.
Yeah. So
it's not necessarily better. It's just
different. But, it's better. You can have light shining through somebody's nostril, and that's cool. But, storytelling has always kind of been just storytelling.
No matter how nice
nice the nostrils are.
Right. I assume that during that time that you were taking those meetings, was that for all the stories up through season 4?
Yeah. Okay. So that was the entire production. We did 4 seasons and then handed them over to Netflix, and
there they are.
Good times.
I pulled Forrest kind of last second. So if you don't have this date, don't blame him.
So if you have no idea what I'm talking about, this is why.
Do you have a date on season 4?
No.
Okay.
I bet somebody does.
Someone.
But
yeah,
it's probably been a year since I've been on production for that show. So
very well. Well, other than our Christian Heritage series that released this year, I feel like it's been a huge win. Which,
it's doing great.
For those who don't know, it's essentially us getting things that are in public domain, classics from obviously our Christian tradition, hopefully giving them a better sort of on the page, easier to read. You can go through the Dover classics, the Dover thrift classics, and they're always tiny, tiny font. Margins are terrible. It's already a difficult book, and then they make it harder to read there. So we wanted to kind of do our own take on the classics. So we, like I said, hopefully it's more readable. And then also we got Forrest to agree to give us new covers once a month on different classics. How has that been, Forrest? Fun? Not fun. Very fun.
The first option. Fun. Yeah, no, it's been great,
What's been your favorite? So you started off with we started off with Martin Luther's Bondage of the Will.
Yeah.
And you did a horse.
A horse
and a cowboy. So
how is that not fun? I mean, so
the first one's very
fun. The idea
fun.
was we needed a style that would sort of work with a very broad range of subject matter.
How did you decide on that style?
It looked cool.
So I saw several mock-ups, and you had one that was a bit of a Searle.
Yeah. So the real reason I went with that style is I was deep into Ronald Searle at the time.
Okay.
For those of you who don't know, Ronald Searle, I think he's dead now.
He is dead. I've checked.
Okay. All right. British cartoonist who was a POW during World War II and spent some time in a Japanese prison camp. And while he was there, he made drawings of his fellow prisoners and of the Japanese guards and the jungle, things like that. And for like 4 years, I think. And he had this stack of drawings that he had, kept hidden from the guards for a while. And so anyways, there's this book called To the Kauai and Back, I think.
Yep.
And it's his drawings from World War II with some writing. Fantastic book. Super interesting. Really good drawings. And since then, he was the guy that kind of, after he got back to England, he started doing cartooning and developed. I mean, he was the guy that like the Disney artists were looking at on like 101 Dalmatians, that kind of scratchy style that those early Disney movies are known for. Everyone was trying to copy Ronald. Yeah. But he had kind of this, in those war drawings, he had this kind of nice Asian flair to his drawings that had this nice economy of line. It was very efficient. Jake's nodding, smiling.
I love it. Yeah.
I have to use these terms. It's
great.
It's in the job description.
It's great. Okay, so, but I have in mind what I thought was like really Ronald Searle was, and maybe we can post it with the image for tomorrow's post about this episode, is where you have a cowboy on a horse and the horse's face is just plowed into the ground. I thought that was far more Ronald Searle than where you've eventually ended up.
Well, yeah, there's Ronald Searle who's being witty and a little bit silly. And then there's Ronald Searle who's being very, I don't know, scholarly and austere. So yeah, the final drawings on the Christian Heritage series don't really look like Ronald Searle, but that was the inspiration. Yep. And I thought it was a good way to kind of bring a fresh, modern edge to these old writings that everyone needs to read, but wouldn't otherwise read unless there was a fun drawing of a horse and a cowboy on the cover.
So it's been a great way to make sure that what you do for a living isn't too far away from what I do for a living. So, but if you had to pick one of those covers to hang up, make it giant and put in your own home, which would you pick?
Oh, Chesterton, of course, with his hair on fire. That one, partly because that feels like the least, I have like the least ownership of that drawing, because I riffed on the classic Chesterton photo and then was told to light his hair on fire.
Yes. A perfect creative
Nate's idea.
Direction.
Yeah. And
at the right time, as we just stared at Chesterton wondering, is this going to be the orthodoxy cover?
Is this it? Yeah. His hair was not on fire for quite a while. And we thought, we were sort of resigned to the fact that we were releasing this sort of run-of-the-mill Chesterton,
which didn't sit well with us.
No, it didn't.
Creative direction came out of the clouds from Nate.
Yeah.
And it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's orange.
It's orange. He's smiling ever so slightly and his head's on fire, which is fantastic. And it's so that one I would put up because, again, it's like it wasn't really my idea, which means I can have some distance from it. I don't have to look at it and think, ugh.
Right.
What was I thinking?
What was I doing?
Which is the case for everything else I do.
Are you privy to which copy has done the best? Do you know that news?
Wasn't it Vindicii?
Yes. Contra? Yeah. So Vindicii has done the best.
Too. Yeah.
And that was that's just American Revolution drummer, I suppose, which is very fun. And worked out very well. It turns out that's the hottest thing of the year.
Yeah, that's probably because of the all
the content,
blog posts, and the content.
But
it really has nothing to do with the cover. Let's be honest.
Well, I know,
none of these books do.
But it's funny to talk about it on your side of it because it's not necessarily.
Yeah,
it's related. But
my job, the way I look at it, is my job is to not ruin it.
Yes,
I just have to make something that is good enough to go on a cover. If it's better and exceeds expectations, that's great.
Yeah,
but
don't ruin it.
Don't ruin it, Forrest. Come on, man.
So tomorrow we will be announcing today, I suppose that everybody's listening, the newest in the Christian Heritage series is John Calvin's Institutes of the Christian Religion. This, Forrest, has been a tough go for both of us. You have to do it, but I have not.
Hey, Jake, have you read John Calvin's Institutes of the Christian Religion?
I have.
Oh, okay.
Is that news to you? Creative direction has been hard for the institutes, but I think our final product is going to be really great.
Well, it's going to be different.
It's going to be different. One thing we thought about the institutes is I went to Bible college, and one thing I wished was that I could have the individual books. So it's made up of 4 books, and I thought that'd be sweet. Canon should do one with 4 books. Well, what's funny is once we saw how many, like the word count on each of these, it's less like how cool are we and more like we had to. They're just simply giant.
Fat.
They're very big. So anyway, those released today. You can find that at canonpress.com, and Forrest's drawings are atop of those as well.
Yeah, good luck figuring out what's going on.
How they relate.
Yeah. If every cover is a visual metaphor, these ones they stretch the imagination, at least.
Which I think Calvin would have wanted.
I think so too. Not that I've read these books. Maybe Caleb could edit that part out too.
Now that we've done that, the great lead up to the news that John Calvin's Institutes are now available. You just finished your degree, which I don't know that how will you walk? When will you walk?
Well, if they let me graduate.
Yes.
Which I'm still skeptical.
Yeah.
But it would be in May of 2021.
Okay.
If the world's still here. Who knows?
Which is also a big if.
Yeah.
I think you'll get your degree. I think there's a better shot of that.
Could be a posthumous.
Yes.
Maybe I won't be here.
You did a Master of Fine Arts at New St. Andrews College.
I did.
I know that we probably talked about it in a previous episode, but now you've technically finished. The last assignment's been turned in.
I have. It has.
So that's breaking.
Falling over the finish line.
How'd it go?
It was great. It was one of the hardest things I've done in a long time.
Okay. So MFAs for most people, like that's the writing degree you go get.
Right.
The famous one, which I'm going to mess up. Iowa, wherever Flannery went.
I
forget. But
I thought NSA was the famous one.
It is now.
Yes. Well.
So what is an MFA? What do you do with an MFA?
You write. You write the best, all the best words. So maybe a question would be, what about that MFA did you get that you couldn't have just self-taught? Yeah. So the reason I did it was the program itself was tailored to students who wanted to actually produce a novel. So there's a big difference between people who say, I want to write something, and then people just have to do it. And I knew I wanted to write something, but I knew I was also the kind of person that I was kind of, I was illustrating, enjoying what I was doing. And it just wouldn't happen unless I paid somebody money to
tell you what to do,
fail me if I didn't actually write something.
Right.
So and it was great. It's low residency. So 3 weeks out of a year for 2 years. So 6 classes total. And you just have class from when the sun rises to when it goes down for a week. And it's great. The classes were amazing. And then in the months in between classes, you're meant to be writing. And
is there anything that
reading.
They had to really, if you were Eustace in your dragonish skin, what did to just push the metaphor all the way through, what did Aslan really have to rip off of you?
You're talking about my bad habits or something? Yeah.
Is there anything? Yeah. What's something like that for you personally?
Man, we talked about this before on one of my many appearances on this show, but
now that it's over,
I have a better perspective on the whole thing. And the words are hard. Not only because there are so many of them, which was my first take.
I forgot.
But also because
there's just so many of them. That was really,
you can't take back what you have said. When you say something,
you've said it.
It's for real. You've said it.
Yeah.
And when you say something that's in any way attempting to convey a truth deeper than 2 inches, it's a little bit, it can be kind of nerve-wracking because what you're saying is, this is what I think is good, true, and beautiful. And then you put that out there, and then
everyone's like,
you idiot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the toughest thing for me was getting over my crippling perfectionism, which was really just cowardice,
Ooh.
You know what I'm talking about, Jake. We've had these conversations before. Yeah, it's like, you just got to say it. So there's some point in this place in the Psalms where David says, I believe and so I spoke. I believe and so I spoke. Paraphrasing. But you can't, if you're a Christian and if you believe anything the Bible says, you can't be silent. Sorry.
Sorry. Sorry.
That's not to say that you should just get on, go jump on any podcast and
say whatever you want.
What comes to your head.
Yeah. Okay. What did you finish with? So you said the goal is to gather people who are serious about putting things into the market.
Mm-hmm.
What has Forrest provided to the market?
Well, nothing yet. I just turned in I'm going to call my second graphic novel script.
Yeah.
Because I wrote the first one.
Right.
And this needs tons of work was the note at the end for the first one. And it did. But so then I kept the characters and the setting and some general plot points throughout 80% of it and started over. So yeah, it's a graphic novel. I think it needs another pass, but it's a fantasy, it's like a middle grade fantasy adventure novel set in the American West. That's as far as I'm going to go right now because it still needs...
Who knows?
It still needs
the third novel that you read?
Yeah. I think it's closer. The general, the goal on my end was basically C.S. Lewis and Miyazaki, I think, would have gotten along quite well in some ways.
Yeah. Do you think Miyazaki knows that?
No.
Or thinks that?
Well, I don't know. There's a scene in Porco Rosso that seems to be lifted out of Magician's Nephew.
Really?
I mean, yeah, maybe. I think there's a scene where the bad guy is. I mean, there's a whole garden context. Yep. There's the bad guy's got the American. He's got the snake on his plane.
Okay.
There's a scene where he comes to the garden on the little island, and I can't remember the lady's name. He's trying to woo the beautiful bar owner lady. Have you seen Porco Rosso? Okay, well.
No, it's fine, but this is good.
And there's a shot where there's a gate into the garden. He just decides to forgo the gate on purpose, climbs over the wall. You've got these, which is what happens at the end of Magician's Nephew. And then he comes in there and makes, his speech, shoots his shot with the lady and falls flat on his face. It's great. But just the whole serpent garden motif, unless that can be found in, I don't know, Japanese folklore as well. It seemed pretty Western.
I think you sent it to me. Someone had compiled a list of Miyazaki's favorite kids' books.
Yeah, and Lewis was not on there.
It wasn't? I thought Narnia, I think Narnia was. Maybe not.
It wasn't. Because I remember looking through that list, trying to prove my theory correct. And
failed. And then I almost lied.
Yeah. Well, I could be wrong. We both could be wrong. Somebody go fact
check. Who's to say what is true?
I don't know. We need a fact checker.
Caleb. That seems to check out, especially the idea of foregoing the gate.
Foregoing the gate. Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know. They just seem like their imaginations would, if Miyazaki were to become a Christian, let's say, their imaginations would click. Just sensibility with pacing, affection for their characters, and then just kind of the offbeat take on the world, which seems closer to the truth than a lot of people get. And that's where everyone thinks Miyazaki and Lewis were just so original. And the reason they were so original is because they were trying to shoot for good, true, and beautiful. And Lewis got a lot closer, obviously. But Miyazaki gets there in a lot of ways as well.
I would imagine if he slogged through The Lord of the Rings, there's a very good chance he did the same with Narnia.
One hopes.
Yeah.
I mean,
it feels like Narnia is way more in his scope.
In his wheelhouse. Yeah.
What he was trying to do.
Yeah. Anyways, all that to say, I wanted Lewis and Miyazaki
to talk
sensibilities set in the American West because that's where I'm from.
Big goals.
The landscape is awesome. I'm an artist. I wanted to draw that. And
So you essentially wrote a screenplay for your final.
Yeah. It's a screenplay
that will eventually be made into a graphic novel.
Yes.
Okay. That's how the sausage is made as far as graphic novels go?
At least this one.
Okay.
I know that there's an actual way to write a graphic novel script, but it's very detailed. You know, you have to describe what's on each panel. Panel 1, this happens. Panel 2, we see this. Versus a screenplay, because a screenplay is a like a guild operation. A screenplay leaves a lot of room for interpretation on the back end. So you can have, the set designer, the DP, the actors there. When you write a screenplay, there's going to be a ton of people riffing on what you have written down. Versus a graphic novel, you're it. So with a graphic novel script, the idea is for you to be as specific as possible, just so that the publisher knows where you're going. But because I've never done this before, I wanted to be, I wanted to leave the back end open so that I could keep honing and
you knew you were doing drafts. So it wasn't like that was not your final to a publisher.
Yeah. And guys like Doug Snaple, I think, write.
Yes. I was going to say one of the last
movie script form.
Yep. One of the last campaigns, I got an original sheet.
Oh, nice. You did. Did you show it to me?
I don't remember, but it's got coffee stains and it's very cool.
Fancy.
And very much like exactly what you're doing. So
exactly what I'm doing.
If it's good enough for 10 April, then, it's good enough for Forrest Dickison.
That's right. We'll see. I'm excited. It's been fun, which was a surprise to me. The fact that I'm still enjoying this thing that I've been working on for the past year and a half.
That's good.
Was a surprise to me, but hopefully it means it's good. We'll
so part of what I do with acquisitions at Canon is I'll get submissions to publish. Like you were saying, you will one day put that together in order to send in. And I was speaking with another editor at Canon about submissions, and one of the hardest, so generally publishers are only going to look at maybe your first chapter, and then maybe even depending on like how many acquisitions they're looking at a day, it could be first page.
Right.
So
first sentence
even. First sentences are often talk of conversation in the creative suite. And essentially I find lack of focus in lines or in sentences or in prose is a huge issue. Has that been the case for you?
Oh yeah.
What is that? Like why is that a thing?
It's a thing because nobody actually knows what they want to say. What is it? In one of Lewis's books, he says, or is it? It's Till We Have Faces. He says something about the fox, says something about the joy of words is saying nothing more or less than what you actually meant. Something along those lines. And so when I realize I sketch the same way I write, which is really loose. I take, when I sketch, I'm not like pinning down something that's close to the final lines. The first, like you watch guys like even like Miyazaki or Milt Kahl he's an old Disney guy, was I think known for this. Their sketches are really close to the final product. They're really good at visualizing in their head what they want and then just putting those lines down. And there's a little bit of tweaking that needs to be done, but not much. Versus guys like, well, I guess me, who can't, maybe it's just not, I know what I'm visualizing kind of what I want, but I'm maybe less patient. So I'll just scribble like 50 lines for this head, for this expression. And then I'll come back and pick the line that I want out of all those 50 lines. And it was the same with writing. I would just stream of consciousness, just barf it all over the page, and then come back and throw it all away, or try and find like the through thread that line that I wanted in my head, and then clean it up and put that on the page. And it's especially hard if you don't even know what you want,
right.
Which was kind of me for the first entire draft of my novels. I didn't really know what I was doing or where I was going.
Is this the case even when you're out, you're staring at this mountain, you've got your little thing? What's it called?
My little thing.
Well, you've got your little
easel,
Your little easel though, not the big easel.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah.
You're out in
plein air sketching equipment, whatever.
Is it the same there too? Like you're
not, well, no, once I realized this about myself, that I was impatient and lazy, because I think that's kind of what it is. It's just like all the hard work should be done in your head.
Okay.
And then actually putting the paint on the canvas or the words on the page, is the physical effort of doing that is not, it's minimal.
Strenuous.
So when I go out to paint now, I'm trying to paint the entire thing in my head before I even pick up the brush.
Wow.
So, and which is why it's helpful to paint small too. So I'm not wasting time, kind of scribbling all over the canvas,
right?
Trying to figure out what I'm doing. I'm trying to visualize and then execute versus execute, on the fly. And so it works sometimes it doesn't. But
so let's say you became the acquisitions editor for fiction tomorrow, and I got to forward all these on to you. What would you tell? So like you get a script and the clarity is very little and unfocused, etc. Like what is your first thing? Just say, build some discipline into this, or like what would you want to tell somebody?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that either it needs to be. Yeah, there's people who can write, who have great imaginations, but their technique is sloppy, and you just need that's just basic English grammar, things like that, and that can be learned, But then there's, like we were talking about earlier, words are an expression of your own sort of take on truth, goodness, and beauty.
Yes,
which means you have to be a real person. You have to know what true, good, and beautiful looks like, and then you have to be able to, translate that into words or pictures.
I think there's a
and so some in some cases there just needs to be a complete author overhaul, because whether it's just your taste is so off that you can't, if you have poor taste, you can't create something that's good.
Which is devastating news.
Devastating news to
yes to us all.
To us all, yeah. So this is why you can't just recreate Lewis by figuring out what was Lewis doing and like how did he write.
Right.
Because Lewis was Lewis. Like that's just who he was. Like what he was writing was just came out from like the leaf mold of his imagination. So what does your own leaf mold look like? And if it's skimpy, but it's if there's some good material there, but it's skimpy, then just start reading, start looking at good stuff, and let it all just marinate for a while, and then it'll come out eventually.
How much of the MFA would you say? So this writing degree, how much of it was reading?
A lot, yeah. For
this very reason, do you think, in terms of being familiar with?
Yeah, because in order to write good, you got to read good.
In order to write good, got to read good.
So yeah, if you there's this documentary, I don't know if you've seen it, called Jiro Dreams of Sushi.
That was big.
Yeah, it was big. Back in 2011 or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Ren watched it all the time.
Well, Ren's a great cook. So
yeah,
chef.
Yes.
Whatever it is. Culinary artiste. That guy was Jiro. He would only eat, I think it was only eat his own sushi because it was the best sushi. Or he would only eat like really, really high-end foodstuffs.
Okay.
He wouldn't eat bad food only because he needed to, in order to be the best, he had to know what the best was. So the same with art or reading or writing. In order to be able to compete with the best or create, to put out the best that you are able to put out, you have to know what it tastes like.
Yeah, I think too I've not done the MFA, I was just watching from afar. Reading broadly seems to be a great idea in the sense of, so maybe this is going against the Jiro comment, but like one thing that I think is especially great about Lewis is someone who is obsessed with Dante and Spencer and all of these people that are very kind of difficult to read now, Chaucer and the rest. Like when he loved it and he loved like different things about them. And then when he set to write, he wrote the Ransom trilogy.
Right.
Which is there's not very many one-to-ones at all with those. Or, so it is interesting like how his passions, the things he loved, and then when he tried to do them, they don't look the exact same by any means.
Right. No, it's all like coming through the Lewis filter. So it's like what are those when you have like a big bag of cake frosting? There's just like a little nozzle at the end.
Yeah, with the shape.
With the shape. And then so like, that's where all of us artists are little nozzles.
Right.
Decorating something. And whatever's in the bag is what's going to come out. It's just going to be
shaped like you.
Like,
and so if someone like loved the Twilight series and it was just like, now I'm going to do a Christian Narnia, it's going to be tough for you to make that happen, because it would be not only tough, it'd be impossible.
Yeah. And not that Twilight's just trash all the way through.
It was an easy, I went for the
but there's not to say that you can't enjoy a good corn dog at the county fair.
Do you think Jiro needs to enjoy a corn dog at the county fair?
He didn't seem particularly happy or...
Okay. That's kind of
I don't know. The doc was, this is a guy who's on the extreme end of his art. which was interesting to see. And there's a lot of takeaways from somebody who has just completely given themselves to raw fish and sweet seaweed. That's an interesting little nozzle.
Totally taken with raw fish and seaweed.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Forrest, thanks so much for hanging out. Another episode of Canon Calls in the bank. Everyone go get Hello Ninja and Hello Ninja, Hello Georgie. So 2 books. You can get those at Canon Press. Forrest will draw a ninja in there. He'll also scribble his name.
Yeah.
Also from this episode, Christian Heritage Series, Christmas is coming up. Gift a Chesterton fan the orthodoxy copy that they deserve, which is a picture of Chesterton with his hair on fire. And if they already have it, throw it away. They don't have, this is almost, we could say the Chesterton certified.
The definitive.
This is the one Chesterton would have wanted you to have.
Can we blurb Chesterton on the back?
I like
of his
this
own
cover
book?
the best. That's what he'd say.
We should do it.
And then Forrest, I wanted to get a recommendation from folks. So I didn't do it after we talked about it, but you were watching Miyazaki. I think I saw, were you watching Porco Rosso with your kids the other night?
No, that was Castle in the Sky.
Okay.
We were doing that.
I saw your wife post a video. It was very great.
It amuses her that Iman is into these children's films.
So Miyazaki's obviously a different flavor for a lot of American viewers. Do you have a go-to for them? What would you recommend?
Well, I'd probably have to say Totoro.
Totoro. Start with Totoro. Which Totoro, there's a great Easter egg in Toy Story.
Yeah.
Where Totoro is in
In the first one?
Not in the...
I think maybe by the
2?
3, I think.
Or 3.
I think 3, there's a stuffed animal anyway.
There's a stuffed Totoro in there. So that's, to back Forrest's recommendation, Toy Story also wants you to see it.
Which, actually, the third one was, I think it was good. Can't remember as much. The fourth one was one of the worst things I've ever seen.
I didn't watch it.
Yeah.
I didn't watch it.
Wow. It was bad. So bad.
And then last thing I wanted to get your recommendation on is for Christmas coming up, if parents were to get their kids a comic book, a book of comics, what would you recommend?
Man, I grew up reading Tintin.
Okay.
And the stories there's not much of an arc. I wouldn't say Tintin learns much on his path through the dens of heroin smugglers.
Right.
But man, the drawings are so fun. And it's just good old fashioned adventure stories.
Yeah.
Tintin's great.
Just throw Tintin into the leaf mold of your child's mind.
Yes.
How it cashes out later in life, it's in the Lord's hands.
That's right.
So Tintin, I knew you'd probably say, would you recommend Pogo?
Oh yeah, Pogo's great.
Pogo is awesome. Walt Kelly, Pogo.
Fantastic art, funny jokes, not woke.
Yeah, which is important.
Which is important these days because the comics industry is pretty woke.
We could put the not woke on all of our recommendations today.
Yeah.
The not woke stamp.
Yeah.
Do you think Miyazaki's woke?
No, definitely not.
No.
But you got to be careful with Miyazaki for other reasons, but not the trendy reasons.
Not the trendy reasons. All right. Thanks, Forrest.
Yeah. Okay. You're welcome, Jake.
He said, yeah.
Yeah.